Alright, so we managed to make a fretboard. We added some cool looking background image to it, and yeah, it works pretty well. But of course there are many other things you can do with a fretboard like this. First of all, of course, the thickest string down here, the E string, the deep E string will be thicker than the others. So you could go ahead and play around with that and see if you can make the lower strings thicker and the higher strings thinner. Also, a real fretboard, you would see the first frets are much wider than when you move up the fretboard. The distance between the different frets becomes smaller and smaller. So we haven't done that in this tutorial either, but you can go ahead and see if you can figure out a way to do that. That'll be pretty cool. And don't forget to leave it in the comments if you find a way to do that. But we are almost finished with this project. Actually, we're not going to add any new features to it. But I had a look at the code, at the JavaScript, and I thought it could probably do with some refactoring because it's a bit messy. So this video will be about refactoring the JavaScript. So in our code back here, let me go to the app.js. First of all, I want to make a copy of this. Just create a new file called app original.js. And just paste everything here just so we have it, just in case that I mess up something. So let's see if we can find something to make a little bit better here. So the first thing I notice is a variable name up here. It's called selected instrument selector. That sounds stupid and doesn't make a lot of sense, so I'm going to rename that. I'm going to copy it, I'm going to Command F, and then I'm going to search and replace. Let's just replace it with instrument selector. That makes more sense. Instrument selector, and then we can click this one and it changes everywhere. So I'm gonna save, and then I'm gonna go back and see that everything is not broken, so that's good. It's not. Another thing I want to do, if I scroll down to our app object here, I can see that we have a lot of event listeners down here, and that looks kind of messy. So what I want to do is I want to take all of these callback functions and move them up into their own separate methods. That'll make it look a little bit neater and easier to read and everything. So the first two here, we already have these in their own separate methods. But the next one here, that's the instrument selector. So we should probably create a new one up here, and I'm gonna call that set selected instrument. Move this down to another line here. Remember the comma here. And then I'm gonna take all of this stuff here and I'm gonna move it up in this one. And then there are some things we need to remember to do, and we cannot refer to this anymore because we're in the callback function. So I'm gonna refer to the object that we're on. So that's app. And we're also going to need the event because we're using that here, so I need to remember to pass that in as well. And then down here we can delete this, and we can go ahead and just refer to this one we just created, and that's called this set selected instrument. Alright, let's see if it works. So I'm going to go back to the browser, and we have a guitar now. I'm going to try a bass. It looks like it works. So that's one thing. Good. Let's move on to the next one. I'm just going to pull this up so it's right underneath here. So this one, accidental selector. Let's make that. Let's put it here, and let's call it set accidentals. And we're going to need the event here as well. And then I am basically just going to copy this one more time and put up here. What can we do here? So this we have to refer to app instead. Like that. And then we should be able to just delete all of this stuff. And all the way up to here. and just point it to the set accidentals. All right, let's see if it works. Go back to the browser, and let's see, now we have flats, and now we have sharps, and we can see they changed down here and they changed on the fretboard. So far so good. Let's go back to the code, and let's see, we have another event listener here. The next one is number of frets selector. So I will make another method up here, and I will call it set number of frets. And we're not going to need the event here, so I'm not going to pass that in. No reason to do that. And then I am going to go down here, and this one here. Just going to copy this, put it up here, and remember to change this like that. And then we should be able to delete this and do exactly the same as before. Set number of frets. Let's check if it works. So, yep, it still works. All right, the next one here, that is show all nodes selector. And that one is a little bit different. I am going to create a method here. Let's call it set show all nodes. First of all. And then it would be pretty nice, I think right down here we are referring to show all nodes selector. That's the one that we grabbed from the HTML, the element itself. And we're checking if it's checked, but it would be nice to have a global variable that would be either true or false. So up here, I want to add another variable, and we can set that to if we want to show all nodes or not. So let's just put it here. Show all nodes, and initially we don't want to show them all, so I'm just going to set it to false. Okay. And then back down in the method we just created. If I can find it, it's here. I will take show all nodes, the one we just created, and I will set it equal to show all nodes selector checked. That way it'll be true when it's checked and false when it's not checked. Okay, so now we can take this stuff and we can move it up here. I'm going to take this, copy it, put it right below this one, and because we already set this one here, we can just take this and put it right here. I'm going to save that, and we should be able now, I think we should be able, this setup fretboard is going to be app setup fretboard, and down here as well. And then we should be able to remove all of this. Let's see. This, what we call it, set show all nodes. This one. Let's see if that will work. It does not work, so we have an error. Of course, I forgot to have a parenthesis here. I'm going to save that, go back, and let's see if we can show all nodes. We can, but we have a problem then. So it works, I can show all nodes, and I can remove them again. But then we have a problem with the event listeners are not removed. Let's see what we can do about that. And of course, that's because I forgot to change this as well. So app, and again, like that, just like that, and let's see if that works then. Show all nodes, and that still works. So, alright, let's move on. And I remember, I think we used this check down here as well. First of all, let's see, where are the event listeners? This is set number of frets set, so show all nodes. Okay, right here we also check this variable here, so we might as well just use this one, show all nodes, just down here in the node name section. So we can just take that and add it here instead. So this is the node name section, mouse in, mouse out. Let's see, let's go back and see. Okay. Still works. Show multiple nodes. That still works. It still works here. So all is good. Everything is fine. No panic. And another thing we can probably do here is remove these two lines and these two lines, because maybe we don't need to remove the event listeners and re-add them again when it's selected, the set show all nodes. So how can we do that? Well, we already set this one here, so we can actually just check. So let's try and just remove these first and see what happens. I'm just going to comment them out first. Might get an error. Save that, go to the browser, and click on show all nodes. Yeah, I still have them here. And that will be because we don't actually need to remove them or re-add them again, because we can go up in the show node dot method up here, and then we can check it here. So down here in show node dot, we can actually just check if it is selected the show all nodes option. So let's try that. I'm gonna make a comment. Check if show all nodes is selected, and then we're going to check here. So if show all nodes, oops, that's not the right one, this one here, if that is selected, then we can just return. Then nothing will happen here. We'll just exit the function. So that should be it, and we can do the same thing in this one. So if show all nodes, just return. And that should probably work. Let's see if it does. Actually, down here we already commented these out, so let's see. So let me reload and see. Look kind of weird. So show all nodes, yep, it is not doing anything. Every time I hover over it, it just returns from the function, and when I do this, they are re-added, and it also works with this and this. So all is good. Now we can get rid of these lines here. Great. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let me pull this up here. And we got the next one to deal with here. That is the show multiple node selector. And yeah, this is not very complicated, but let's keep doing what we're doing and put it up here. So I am gonna create another one. I'm gonna call it set show multiple nodes. And we are just going to do exactly the same here. So I'm just gonna grab this one, put it here, and we will delete all of this and then refer to it, set show multiple nodes, like this. Let's see if it works. Always go back and check if it works. So does it work? It does, and it works here as well. Great. So let's pull that up. Let's have a look at the next one, node name section. Okay, so up here I'm going to make another method, and I'm gonna call it set nodes to show. In here we're gonna need the event, so let's type that in. So in here we're just gonna take this stuff right here, copy that and put it up here, and then we are going to, we already referring to the app toggle multiple nodes to show. That's good, so this should be just fine. And yeah, let's check if that works. So we just have to delete this and add this dot set nodes to show. Okay, let's see if it works. Looks like it works. Everything is working as planned. So that's good. Okay, so we can do the same kind of thing down here, but we still need to do a check here, it looks like. So I'm just gonna move this up so we can see it's done. And this one here, I'm gonna add set nodes to hide up here. And then I'm gonna take this, put it up here. You're going to need the event. All right. And let me see if that will work. It looks like it's gonna work. All right. I'm just gonna try to delete this here and just this set nodes to hide. To show, to hide. Okay, let's see if that works. It works here. And it works here. Okay, that's great. Yep. Okay, so we actually managed to move all of our event listeners into separate methods. And it looks a little bit better. It's easier to understand what's going on. So you can go here and see what's going on here. Well, this one goes up here and does something here and there. And so on and so forth. So it's not going to behave differently, the app. It's just easier for humans to read. Or at least I think this is easier to read. Actually, I'm just going to rename this one. So it's called Node to Hide. And like this. That should still work. And it sure does. Good. But now we have a lot of methods on this app object here. If I scroll up, you can see we have so many things, and maybe it's a little bit too much. So what I want to do is I want to move them, all the event listeners, all the handlers, I want to move them into their own separate object. So I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to call it handlers. And then I am actually just going to grab all of this from where we start. We start from setup node names, show node dot. That is the first one we have here. And then into this one here. I think I'm gonna cut that and I'm gonna add it to this one, and then we'll see what's going on. We have a comma here, and but otherwise it looks as it should. Let's check this one here. Handlers. Okay. So up here, instead of this setup event listeners, now we have it on a different object, and that is the handlers object. Okay, let's see if it works. And it sure looks like it works. So now we separated that, and we have 3 objects instead. So the last thing I want to do is I just want to pull these together a little bit, the variables up here. Maybe have all the constants together. I'm gonna copy this and put it up here. And we have, what do we have here? Then we have, maybe I want to move this one up here. That's also one of the constants. This really doesn't matter much, but you know, it's my OCD. And then after that, we have all nodes, show all nodes false, show multiple nodes false, show accidentals. This one here, let's pull that up. And let the selected instrument be guitar. We can do that here, but this one has to be one of the last ones because we need to set this because we refer to this one here. So that looks a little bit better. We have all the constants up here, and we have all of the lets down here. Let's just check if it works. It should, because I didn't really do anything. Yep, that's good. All right. So one last thing I want to do here. I want to hide all of these global variables here, because we can mess with that if we want to. And let me show you what I mean. If I go back to the browser and I open up the console, zoom in a bit. in the console here. Let's say we want to change the number of frets. So I can actually go here and I can set the number of frets. I can see that it's 20, but I can also mess with it and I can say I want like 200 frets or something like that. I can set it to that. It's not going to do anything because we need to refresh the fretboard, so I can just go app set up fretboard. And then we'll get all of this stuff here, and it doesn't look good, and we don't want the user to be able to access these global variables. And the reason that they are exposed is because we just declared them in the root out here on the document, on the global object. So a way to do that is to use something called an IIFE, or immediately invoked function expression. And as you're probably aware of, when you have a function and you declare a variable inside of that function, you're not able to access that variable outside of the function. It has to do with the execution context and the scope and things like that. But let me give you an example here. If I create a function, just going to call it test, and I'm going to set a variable here, test var. I'm going to set it equal to fretboard. Okay, so now we have declared this function, but if I go test var, oops, it's not defined. See, I don't get the value of it. But if I set it here, this time we're going to call it hello, then I can get it. That's because here we're setting it on the global object, on the window object, and here we're just declaring it inside a function, so it's not exposed. And an IIFE, a immediately invoked function expression, is basically just a function calling itself. So what we can do up here is, all the way at the top, let's create a function, just like we would usually do, something like this. All right, we want to wrap this function in parentheses, because then when we add another set of parentheses, we're going to run this function. So that means everything in here will run by itself. We don't need to call it. It will call itself. Let's see if it works. Let's console log something. Whatever. Save that, and remember we didn't call it, but you can see it called itself in the console log this. So that's what we can do. We can take all of our stuff here, everything. I'm going to cut that, and then I'm just going to paste it right here. So we have everything inside this IIFE, inside this self-calling function. I'm going to save that and go back to the code and see everything still works. There's no difference. But if we try to access the number of frets, it's not there. Now it's not defined. So we don't have access to any of the variables anymore, but it still works. So people cannot go and mess with this through the console. So this marks the end of the Fretboard tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked that we did the refactoring. I think that's something I'm going to add to my future videos, because it's really important, at least to me, to be able to read my code and feel good about it. And I feel much better. This feels much cleaner now, I think, and I feel much better about it. And I'm just going to pull this in here. And now we don't have access to the global variables anymore, which is cool too. There's one thing that I'm missing here, and I don't have many comments. I should probably have added some more comments. We have some here. I should probably go through it, or actually you should put in your comments while you write the code, and then you can refine it later on. I didn't really make a lot of comments, but I promise you guys I'll get better at that, hopefully. So thank you so much for following along, and I hope you liked it. And if you do, please share, like, and subscribe. And yeah, let's have some fun with these tutorials. So yeah, until next time, see ya.